Welcome back to Riding the Pine. This is our review of Game 28 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks defeated the Dallas Stars down in Dallas, Texas by a score of 4-2, improving their record to 14-9-5, finishing the halfway point of this season 5 games over 500. But before we get to the review tonight, if you could do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Also, hit that notification bell so you can um, know when we upload our content. Whenever we upload, I know our upload times have not been consistent. Been having some issues both on my end in terms of uploading as well as getting our graphic designer to get the layout sent before noon sometimes. So yeah, hit that notification bell so you know when we're uploading. I'm going to try to be a little bit more consistent, but no promises. Also, comment down below. Would love to hear some of you guys and your thoughts on the game and specific players, and maybe even you agree or disagree with something one of us says. So please, we'd love to interact with you down below. With that, I will turn it over to my co-host, Chai Sports fan Joe. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, hey Kyle. Thanks for having me on as always. And it was kind of one of those like hockey, hockey wins, I guess you could say. It's like the Hawks were pretty much dominated for most of the game. I mean, and with them only mustering 16 shots, but out of those 16, four of them went in, and we were able to hold off a late surge there from Dallas and win the game 4-2. But hey, I guess that's hockey, right?
Yeah, it was a interesting game to say the least. I think a lot of fans on Twitter may be overlooking the game a little bit. Um, as we said, Hawks had a horrible or a hard time at least mustering much offense at all, finishing with only 16 shots in the game. For reference, the Stars had 15 shots at the end of the first period. So the Blackhawks only mustered one shot more than they did in one frame. So that's concerning. And then when you consider they had 5 power plays as well, the fact that you only have 16 shots is really not good. Um, I think the Hawks got very lucky tonight. Obviously, great that they got the 2 points, but I think a big reason as to why they got those points was Kevin Lankinen in net.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure. And like I said, and the Hawks did capitalize. Give them credit; they capitalized on two of their five power plays, I think. So, but it was like, yeah, wasn't it crazy at one point that I think the Hawks only had, I don't know if it was like eight shots on goal, and at that point, four of them or three of them had gone in. I
Yeah, they
mean,
had was 4 goals on 8 shots through the almost the entire second period. DeBrincat scored at 16-10, so that would be basically through almost 40 minutes, 8 shots.
yeah, that's
That's
not good.
yeah,
So
and I feel bad for Anton Gudobin actually because he got pulled, but I don't really think he played horrible. Like I'd have to look at some of
right.
the.
I mean, at Kubalik's goal, I mean, that's a partial breakaway, and I mean
Yeah,
the the two power play goals, DeBrincat, and who scored our other power play goal?
Soderberg.
Was it Soderberg? So and then he was screened on that one,
Yeah, that was a tip too. So
and then how about, yeah, finally Duncan Keith, a year in the making, because I think they said his last goal came March 11th of last year. and now it comes March 11th. His next goal comes March 11th of this year. So
Yeah, look, man, I love me some Duncan Keith. So anytime he scores, I feel happy for him. It's amazing that he didn't have more goals throughout his career. Granted, I don't think his career is close to being over. I think he's still got at least another 5 years in him. But um,
what they say that was his 103rd goal of
I
his
think it
career.
was, well, so Foley said 102nd, and then uh, Eddie said 101st.
Oh, okay.
I think it was 102nd. I think Foley was, well, no, it was Eddie. So it was 100. No, yeah, Foley was right. It was 101 going into tonight. So it's 102 now. Because I remember it took him like 30 games to get that, like, number 100 or whatever it was. And I think it was like 30 or like half the season, it seemed like. And then after he scored that, he got another one right away. Uh, and I think they were joking at the time. This was before the shutdown, obviously, that uh, maybe that he would start scoring in bunches now that he got the monkey off the back getting 100. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But
Right.
yeah, happy for Dunks getting that goal. Um, DeBrincat, obviously, you mentioned already, staying hot, power play goal. Um, I'll throw this to you because someone was interacting with us on the uh, twitter.com about Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, suggesting that Alex DeBrincat was the best line mate that Patrick Kane's ever had. And I don't agree with that. Me personally, I still think that's Panarin. Um, but what say
Both good,
you on
yeah,
that?
both good line mates, but yeah, I kind of felt like the chemistry developed a little bit more, but with Panarin, but I think now it is, I mean, it seems like it's kind of been both have had really good chemistry with Kane, but I mean, Kane, gosh, I mean, I feel like a monkey playing out there can have good chemistry with Kane because he's just, he's got, sometimes he's got eyes in the back of his head and can make plays that really not many other people in the National Hockey League can make. So I think anybody on his line is going to benefit from him.
Whether they're scoring goals, making assists, or setting Kane up, or Kane setting them up. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Panarin did light the lamp quite often when he was with Kane, but I mean, DeBrincat's doing it too. So I mean, I guess I'm just gonna go out and call call it a draw at this point because it seems like they both benefit from his play. So
Yeah, but I mean, so there's the rub, right? DeBrincat hasn't really done this when not playing with Kane. Panarin has. In fact, I think Panarin broke his points record in Columbus. And I know he's on about the same pace with New York that DeBrincat is right now. And we had this conversation earlier too about, if that Blackhawks still had Panarin, whether that would make much of a difference. And I think we had this, whether it would, if you swapped him into DeBrincat, whether it would matter. And I think as a general rule, it probably wouldn't matter. But I still think Panarin's a better player than DeBrincat. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like DeBrincat. I just think Panarin maybe is a little bit more of a complete player. And obviously, Panarin is 5 years older, I think, than DeBrincat. So eventually, DeBrincat is going to be a much more valuable piece to Chicago than Panarin would be, assuming, Father Time comes along. But yeah, I just think from, like, to me, Panarin right now is top 5 winger and scorer in the league. Like, I don't, and DeBrincat's not there. I mean, after his slump from last season, like, DeBrincat needed to do what he's doing right now. And again, not taking anything away from him, DeBrincat this year in terms of his two-way play on his defensive, and they've talked about it. I mean, you've heard Eddie routinely talk about the comparisons to Datsuk and how much better DeBrincat's been in his own end and making plays and the work ethic and the competitiveness they talked about tonight with Kane. Like, I think that's definitely helped. And, maybe that was part of the reason why last year's numbers were down, that he was focusing on getting better in his own end, although we didn't really see those results until this season. But yeah, there's no doubt he's had a fantastic season, and hopefully he keeps it up, because I don't know if you've been on here when I've mentioned it, but at the end of this contract that he's on, if Stan Bowman wants to keep him around in 3 years, he's going to have to pay him at least $9 million. So hopefully this continues, because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And, especially but, like you said, if maybe it makes things a little bit easier with, once Seabrook's money eventually comes off. And because how long does DeBrincat on his contract again?
So Seabrook will still have 1 year on his deal.
Okay.
When DeBrincat needs a new one, because this is
and then if Shaw retires and his money comes off the books.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, you got to keep Kubalik, if they keep Kubalik, Doc, Boqvist, Mitchell, all these young prospects are going to need new deals. And then obviously, what do you do with Strome? So, and it's going to be an interesting year, I'll tell you that, because I believe, so it's Keith's contract expires, Kane's contract expires, Taves' contract expires, and DeBrincat's contract expire all in the same year.
Is this after next season?
Yes.
Okay.
So 3 years, including this year, is what they all have left on their contracts.
Okay, so they got this year, next year,
the year after, and then they expire.
Well, yeah, by that point, yeah, who knows what, if Kane
hopefully the cap is up too by then.
Right. Which I would think, with fans likely being in the stands probably next year.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if, again, I don't want to get political on here, but Uncle Joe, our wonderful president who can't string 2 sentences together, apparently gave a speech today and suggested that we would be allowed to have small gatherings for the 4th of July. Now, I don't mean to be Captain Controversy here, but what the fuck? You just, like, in this, I believe in the same speech. Again, I haven't listened to it. I just seen basically spark notes about what was in it. Apparently, he also said that anybody who wants the vaccine, 18 and older, will be able to get one in May, come May 1st. That will be the directive. So if that's the case, and he just purchased, I don't know how many, we've got, like, I think it's the total's at 750 million vaccines now. So when you have a population of 350 million and you have 750 million vaccines, and nobody under 18 that's in the population can even get the vaccine yet, because we don't, want to give it to kids we don't know how it affects kids, right? So if you're 18 or under 18, you can't get it because, medical reasons. But if all this is true, then why do we have to have small like, we're talking 2 months from May now. I don't understand. Like, look, again, I don't want to get political with this, but you the listeners and all of you need to start questioning what's going on with our government with this stuff, because it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. The fact that the Cubs and the White Sox now can have 20% capacity, but for some reason the Bulls and Blackhawks can't even have 10%. Like,
My guess is because it's outdoors. That's why.
I understand that. That's why I said 10%, right? Like you chop 10% off. And look, like there's a lot of teams in the NHL right now, and I guess the NBA too, I would presume, that are in Republican run states that have fans in the building. Dallas tonight was one of them. And they're not having any trouble. Like AEW, the wrestling promotion that the Jags owner owns down in Jacksonville, they have like, I think they said in their football stadium, they're getting like, I don't know, 10 or not 10, but like 2,000, 2,500 fans a game. And they're starting to up how many fans they've had coming in. And they haven't had one COVID positive test yet. And they've been doing this for, I don't know, 4 months now, like since October, mid-October. And it's like, look, and where I'm going with all of this, if we don't have full buildings by October, something is wrong. I'm sorry. And that goes for football too. Like 20% of the country now, I just looked at it today with, I guess, data through yesterday, has been given one dose of the vaccine. 10% is fully inoculated. If you're going to have this many doses and anybody can get it by May, you're telling me 5 months from now we can't have full buildings? Like, there's no proof in the pudding for any of that. Like, stuff that's being said and going on, guys, is like, you got to start questioning this because there's no science behind it. And anyway, I don't want to get into like all the politics and stuff, but seriously, we need to start paying attention to our government and what people are doing. Anyway, end of my government politic rant that has sports involved in it. But yes, so hopefully the cap will be going up and hopefully we have full stadiums, at least 70% full, let's say, by October, across the board for NBA, football, and NHL, and the World Series and baseball playoffs. So I thought Connor Murphy played excellent tonight. I thought he was one of the standouts. Had 5 hits tonight, or excuse me, 2 hits, 5 block shots, and played 25 and a half minutes. This guy's quickly becoming, I think, their best defenseman.
Yeah, I really like the way Murph's been playing, and
I was waiting for that hit on Cogliano for everyone to go, oh my God, he's turned into this dirty player all of a sudden. Thank God there wasn't a penalty on that, because then I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, and I assume Cogliano was in concussion protocol. That's why he was missing for, 16 minutes of game time, it seems like, or something, somewhere around there. So I think that hit was midway through the second, and he was back maybe 5 minutes into the third. So somewhere around there. But yeah, Murphy has definitely been impressive to me. Pay that man when he's due. That's for sure.
Right.
I thought Bodan and Calvin DeHaan were fine tonight. I didn't notice either one of them, so that's a good thing. I even kept thinking to myself, I'm like, where's DeHaan? I haven't seen DeHaan. I haven't heard DeHaan's name like at all tonight. And I was like, well, he's playing, because I was looking at the stat sheets. And well, that's a good thing. Let's talk about Boqvist. So we talked about Boqvist before coming on the show, and then we've talked about him the last few games, I think. 2 assists tonight, both on the power play. I don't think this is correct, though, because of the stats anyway. They have him at even right now, and I'm pretty sure he was on the ice for both goals, so he should be a -2. That's why I was kind of stunned that they gave him the second star tonight down in Dallas, their scorekeepers. I think that was the official that the Blackhawks account tweeted out. I think that was the official 3 stars of the game anyway. But yeah, I would have definitely probably given that to somebody else. But yeah, again, he hurts my brain because he'll make a good play or he demonstrates this offensive capability, and then there's a huge egregious turnover. And thankfully, I don't think the Hawks got burned by any of his turnovers tonight. I actually think on both goals that were given up, it was one of them was on Duncan Keith, who for whatever reason followed Boqvist and whoever their player was. I don't know who it was, but followed him behind the net. And I had said I thought maybe that was because of Keith thinking Boqvist was losing him and going to lose him. But then again, like if you're Keith, you would think you would know, like, well, Boqvist is my D partner, so if I follow behind the net, we're not going to have a single defenseman in front of the net. That's not good. So yeah, that was a brain fart moment for Keith. And then the second goal just went through Keith and Boqvist. A goal Lankinen probably should have stopped. But I think Keith could have got a stick on that shot as well. But overall, like, again, I think Boqvist's play tonight gets masked by the 2 assists. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I said, Boqvist is, we all know what Boqvist is at this point. He's more of the offensive defenseman. He's going to quarterback your power play. And he's going to make offensive plays happen more than defensive plays. So, and I think a lot of people are like, well, he's got to be out of the lineup. He's too much of a defensive liability, and defense wins games. And yeah, you get that. But again, the Blackhawks power play has really benefited from having, like, active defensemen like Boqvist be a part of it, because we're able to get good breakouts and we're able to set up our top goal scorers, to put the puck in the net. So it's a catch. I get where some fans are coming from, but it's a catch-22. It's like, all right, you take Boqvist out of the lineup, but then who do you have that really quarterbacks your power play? I I don't know. Who would you say, Kyle? Like, if you took Boqvist out of the lineup to really quarterback the power play?
Well, it's complicated because normally I would say Bodan. However, you're probably, I would think, going to play Mitchell. And I guess if you take Boqvist out and you leave Bodan in, I guess Bodan, like, so if Mitchell replaces Boqvist, Bodan probably. Because I don't know. I mean, I think Mitchell has some skill there, but I think he's much more of a defensive defenseman at this point.
Right. And that's why it's like, all right, so but then if you leave him in, but he's like, well, the Hawk fans chimes in, well, if he stays in, then he's going to, be more of a liability than he's going to be an asset, which, okay, yeah,
It depends on the game at this point.
right,
Like,
right. He's going to make turnovers. He's only 20 years old. Between him, Mitchell, Bodan, these are all guys that are really young. They're kind of just, for the most part, they're just getting their feet wet in the NHL. So yeah, turnovers are going to happen. So, but at least you have guys like Zadorov, Dahan, Keith that can kind of offset the turnovers. Sometimes they could kind of bail them out. So I mean, again, I'm kind of one of those. I don't know. I talked to Kyle before we came on, and I was like, I do feel like Boqvist would be better served playing, a top role and top minutes in Rockford. But I also see it to where we need kind of that offensive defenseman on this team. So, and I'm sure that's what Colleton and what Bowman see as well. I mean, I'm sure they're probably thinking like, yeah, if we had another more of a veteran offensive defenseman, we could probably put Boqvist in Rockford, but we don't have that.
So Bodan had 5 points in the 11 games this season before tonight. And then if also before the night, he had 4 points in 5 games. So I do think that's a guy that you could put on the power play to kind of replace Boqvist if you were to bring Mitchell back in. But it's, it is what, like, again, I mentioned on the last review that Boqvist has got to get stronger. Like, I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if it's a diet problem and he's not eating the proper proteins or whatever to get stronger. But like, I'm not seeing that progression from that Doc had, right? Like, Doc visibly got stronger and more dominant. Boqvist looks exactly the same, except he's scoring more. Granted, the team's a lot better than last season, so you would expect kind of an uptick. Plus, Boqvist is getting more time too. So I don't know. Like, I feel like I would send him to Rockford, and the reason I say that is because I don't want him to become Eric Gustafson 2.0. We don't want that, because if he's Eric Gustafson 2.0, he's a third pair defenseman. You can't play him top four. And because of the amount that he scores, he's going to go to a contract negotiation and go, hey, I put up 40 points. I can score 50. I want to get paid as such. I'm the next Erik Karlsson. That's what everybody was calling him, right? When he was drafted. And it took Erik Karlsson a while to be able to play defense. So, potentially that's there. But still, like, the problem with that is, and I can see the argument from both sides, but when you have 16 shots in a game and 5 power plays, and that's all you muster, you've clearly got offensive problems, which means the Hawks aren't going to get as lucky as they were tonight. So knowing that, until Doc comes back, until Strome comes back, et cetera, you've got to play that New York Islanders Barry Trotz, maybe we should start calling it Jeremy Colleton style, that's defense first, because you can't afford to give up 3 goals a game, 4 goals a game, because you don't have the offense to keep up with that. Like, I think that's a concern too, which makes Lankinen, I think, even bigger story of this season. I'd be curious to go back and look at how many games the Hawks have won where they've given up 3 or more goals, because I don't think it's many. Maybe, let's see, they have 14 wins now. So I would say maybe 4 wins. Does that sound about right? That they have?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 2/3 of their wins come where they limit the other team to 2 goals or less, or 3 goals or less, I guess. Once and that's the problem. That's why I've been talking about the last 2 or 3 years, ever since Panarin was traded. If you can't average 3.5 goals a game, you ain't going to win in this NHL. You're just not. You got to be able to. This is a scoring league, and the top teams score in bunches. And if you can't do that, you're not going to win unless you have Barry Trotz's just shut down system where you just clog the ice. But, you got to have size to do that too. And the Hawks don't exactly have size. So, the point of that was that you can't have Boqvist going out there turning the puck over in his own end repeatedly, which he does every game. And yes, I understand he's 20, but we're trying to get into the playoffs here and also develop, right? Like you want development. And I don't think that having him play in the NHL and make a bunch of mistakes is a good thing. Like, I think he'd be better served in Rockford playing 25 minutes a night, getting time on the penalty kill even, and developing that way. And then, even if it was just for like a week or two or something to do whatever. All of their rookie defensemen have sat except for Boqvist. Mitchell has sat now. Bodan has sat. Carlson has sat. Kalanick, Jesus Christ, has he sat? All of their rookies on defense have sat. They're young players, except for Boqvist. The only time Boqvist sat was when he was forced to because of COVID. And, like, I don't know. I just think they have, like, this thing where they're going to make him a thing. And I don't know. It's weird. And it's frustrating because I don't want to crap on him. And he didn't, like I said, neither of the goals were his fault tonight. But there were plays where he had egregious turnovers that could have been goals. And when you only won tonight by 2 goals, if Dallas, like, let's put it this way, if Dallas was trailing 4-1 going into the third period, and then they scored the 2 goals that they did tonight in the third, boy, oh boy, is this game a different game because it's a 1-goal game. And now the Blackhawks are going to be playing much tighter and overthinking and could potentially make even more mistakes, right? Because they're overthinking and they're trying to protect this lead from a pretty veteran squad over in Dallas, even though they're missing, quite a few guys. But so yeah, I don't expect them to do anything. I feel like we're just talking in conjecture with Boqvist. I don't think he's coming out. I don't think they're sending him down, but we can dream, I guess.
Right.
So Kubalik scored the opening goal of the game. I thought that was one of his better offensive showings, at least for goal scoring. Humorously, he admitted in the interview report or whatever they call it, the intermission interview, that he had made a boo-boo in his own end. Or I kind of laughed. I think he called it the end zone. It's like, wrong sport there, kid. But yeah, another great pass by Hagel. I mean, we can't say anything more good about Hagel with the hard work and the effort to strip pucks, get pucks, the passing. When this team gets healthy and the offense is more balanced, do I expect Hagel to really benefit from that? Because I think he's going to be playing with much better talent than, say, David Camp, at least offensively. So I look forward to that. But yeah, so again, good for Kubalik, showing some sort of skill. Wasn't a sandbagger type goal. So I was happy to see that. And yeah, let's talk about Carl Soderberg. So we've talked about both him and Janmark. And I think both of those players are guys ideally that you bring back next year for a balanced lineup. And like Soderberg and Janmark both, but like they just bring so much defensively with their sticks and their hustle, and Soderberg can win faceoffs. I don't know what he finished at tonight. Let me look here. Not good tonight, 33%, but I think for the season he's at like 52%. So he does pretty well in that regard. And like shorthanded, didn't he have a shorthanded breakaway, I think, tonight from just the hard work that he was.
I think he did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the pushing and 3 block shots, 3 hits. And this guy's 35 years old. So obviously when I say, bring him back, you're bringing him back on like a 1-year contract, but Soderberg reminds me of a guy like a Michael Hanzus that the Hawks had in yesteryear, or maybe a Madden from that 2010 Cup team that's got that veteran presence. They're older. They can win faceoffs, penalty kill. Well, Soderberg actually is probably more skilled than Madden, so Hanzus might be a little bit better of a comparison. But yeah, I really like these two. And it's interesting, right? Because in all the trade talk, those are the two guys that keep getting brought up. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, but I don't really want to trade him. Like, I kind of like to keep him for next season.
Well, it's going to be interesting, because like I said, now with the deadline being a month away, and yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I know you could get some nice value for a guy like Ian Mark, and I mean, I'm not going to, it's not going to be first round picks. It's not going to be a king's ransom of a return, but I do feel like you can get at least, maybe a second rounder, but I don't know. It's so hard because, you want this team to succeed. So, and obviously Janmark, you're better off with him than you are without him. So, like I said, I know we've talked about it in past podcasts, but it's going to be interesting to see what Stan Bowman can do and who he'll bring in to maybe, and not to say you're playing for, and I know it's always like you play to win, but I think all Blackhawks fans, everywhere know that this team is not equipped to go, 4 rounds and win a Stanley Cup. So, but I think it's just a matter of, maybe they'll surprise some teams and make a run to the, the second round or the conference final. But
yeah, I think ideally what I would be shooting for if I were management and the coaching staff is to finish third and then to win that first round matchup, and then play well to at least, like, say 6 games or 7 in the second round against Tampa, assuming it's Tampa. And obviously, I think a playoff series against them, right, the defending champions, would be very good. So I think if you could knock, and again, I keep thinking about, wow, what a story it would be if the Hawks played the Panthers in the first round
right.
with Quenneville on the other side. What a story that would be, especially because in Florida they actually have fans. So I'd be curious too. I don't know if they'd have some fans in Chicago, which, by the way, so they did mention that they're planning on having like no bubble for the playoffs, unless it would be for like the Canadian teams. But I still don't know why you would have a bubble for that. That would seem why. Well, I guess the bubble would just be moving the Canadian team over here if they're
Yeah,
the
you know what?
Eastern.
And I think why the NHL did that is because, it helped, I think, keep the teams and the players kind of, you focused on their task at hand, and it was like, you had no distractions. You could, you weren't like tempted to go out. You weren't tempted to, like I said, at the time, COVID was still pretty rampant, and I know now it's still around, but it's not nearly as worse as it was. But you weren't like tempted to in that bubble to break the protocols. Everything was kind of at your fingertips. You had designated areas of the hotels where you can go and kind of quote unquote let loose or just hang out, and be with your teammates. But I kind of feel like, you look at what happened, I know with the NCAA tournament, or I know what Duke walk-on happened to have COVID, and it basically ended Duke's season. So it's like, I think you just hope that doesn't happen with one of the teams on the NHL, where if, somebody goes out, they break the protocol, and if they test positive, then it's like you really screw around with the playoffs. So, I wouldn't be
I don't think they're technically allowed to go out.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But I know, because it's like, but some players might, just, I don't know.
Well,
Not
isn't that why Ovechkin and was it Vrana, the Russians, right, down in Washington,
yeah,
they all went out
they
and
all
got
had to be a
suspended.
gathering, and right.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I feel like in the bubble, because I think they had a little bit more control. They had tighter security. They had, but whereas maybe in a non-bubble situation, it's basically like the team's kind of, all right, well, we're trusting you to not do this, so don't do it. But
Well, and what's kind of interesting is where for the bubble, Canada was supposed to be viewed as the better for the bubble last year, for the better market, right? They were both in Canada, both bubbles.
right.
I don't think that's going to be the story this year because for those of you who know the hockey guy, he ended up blocking me on Twitter, my personal account, because I got into it with him over COVID vaccines a couple months ago. And humorously, I was correct. Uh, so Canada went and bought up. They were getting heavily criticized at the time for buying all of these vaccines from American pharmaceutical companies. And I pointed out, I said, well, and I said, it doesn't matter at the time if it's Trump or Biden. They're not going to let American pharmaceutical companies and American factories ship vaccines out to Canada before Americans get them. No country would do that. Come on, let's have some common sense here. Plus, Canada's like 70 million people. We're like, 3 times that size. Plus, I think it's something crazy like 15 million Canadians, I think, live in the United States. It makes sense, but that's a large part of their citizenship that lives over here already. So I was just pointing that out. Well, apparently, I was reading online, there's some big uproar going up in Canada because people aren't getting vaccinated. They've only vaccinated, I think, 2,300 or 2.2, 2.3 million people. And that's after they bought all these vaccines. Well, because of what I said would probably happen, which is what they feared, they bought all of their vaccines from European factories to forego the American factories because they were worried that either Trump or Biden, rightfully so, would, not let those cross the border, Americans get them first. So now we're, like I said, about 20% of the population's been at least had a first dose shot. So by the time the playoffs roll around, which would be mid-May, you're going to have, I would assume by then, half of the country should at least be inoculated based off current pace, if not more. So you could be in a situation, depending on, if Canada gets these vaccines in or not, where America is actually safer than Canada is this time around because more people have been vaccinated. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. And because of that, by the way, I would be stunned if they don't have fans in attendance, like say 30 or 40% capacity for the playoffs, including in Canada. Like I think we talked about on the last one. If Toronto is in the Eastern Conference Final, I can't believe that they wouldn't let fans into the building. That would they would never live that down. So all of this is just so interesting, right? But yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, hopefully this COVID shit is over with because it's starting to really get irritating. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure on everybody it's a hard thing, and especially if you know somebody who's had it, or who's died, if you God forbid died from it. And um but I think we're all just ready to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and get back to a sense of normalcy. And it's been, for me, yeah, and for so many other people, we haven't been able to see a live sporting event now in
A year.
a year. So
I think it was a year today, right? That was the last live Blackhawks game with fans.
yeah, I mean, I like I said, the last game I went to was, yeah, March 8th, to the game before they played the Sharks there on the 11th, and they lost to the Blues 2-0. So but yeah, I mean, I really, I hope, for the Blackhawks at least, if they do get into the playoffs, that they'll be able to have fans there, however many it is. But
Yeah.
I think it's just
limited capacity, but
right. So but we'll see what happens. I'm hoping it seems like we're on the right track, and we're headed down a good path with this. So let's just hope it transpires.
yeah, and I think that'll wrap up the review for the game. I do want to, before we leave here, I don't think we talked about the new TV deal that was, I believe, officially confirmed for the NHL and ESPN, which I do believe we talked about ESPN way back, and how they used to have Gary Thorne and that dude next to Doc Emmerich. And I'm going to be honest here. I think I'd put Gary Thorne over Doc Emmerich. And maybe that's just because, like, growing up, Gary Thorne just had so many iconic calls back in the 90s and stuff, being on ABC and ESPN. And they haven't confirmed if he'll come back yet or not. He said that he would talk to them, though, if they reach out. So hopefully that happens. Unfortunately, I did see that Barry Melrose is coming back, so yay.
Mm.
The mullet will return. But yeah, big news. So apparently I want to go back and listen to it or watch it. I don't know if you saw it, Joe, but apparently Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, who I believe, I'm not sure what Bill's title is, if he's the vice president.
I think he's the deputy commissioner.
Okay. Yeah, they both came out and had a press conference about their meetings and stuff. And essentially, first of all, good news. They talked about the signs and advertisements on the helmets and the new digital. I don't know. I've seen a few fans comment about it online, but if you haven't noticed, they now have the digital ads right at the top of the slot, right at the top of the blue line.
And is that by the different TV, TV rights for each team to do that?
Yeah, so each team controls that.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if they have something in the ice that does that. I don't think so. I think it's something overhead because I've noticed they've glitched a few times during the game. So as the cameras move, those unfortunately the ads kind of move with the puck sometimes. But they'll get it right, and I'm happy because they said they were able to recoup about $100 million between the helmet advertisements and those new digital on ice ads. And those, it's the same technology that allows them to put the ads on the boards behind the respective nets as well. I will say, I hope they continue that, especially the advertisements on the helmets. I think any way that they can generate revenue is good for the game, as long as it doesn't result in freaking advertisements on jerseys. I don't care. Try to keep the ice clean, obviously, but if you can, I think they've even been able to, because they were talking about this pre-COVID at the All-Star game, because they were going to do that god-awful puck tracker, which thankfully they didn't. They've been trying to make that a thing for fucking 20 years. Hopefully that never happens. But they also have got a new tech where the ads on the boards can change. So that would seem to be a really cool thing if they can get that into production and get that going to generate more revenue. But on that, with the television deal with ESPN, so apparently that's not the only TV deal that they're doing. So was it 7 years that this contract is for?
Yes, 7 years.
Yeah, and they're getting $400 million annually from Disney, who owns ESPN. And I don't know how, again, because apparently if you have ESPN Plus, you're going to be able to get all of the out-of-market games, the way I'm understanding it. So that seems interesting to me, because that would seem to make NHL Center Ice and NHL TV worthless. Right? Because why wouldn't you just get ESPN Plus at that point? Because you get more content. So, plus, on the other end too, I don't know what ESPN Plus costs a month, but I know Disney's offering bundles where you get Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN plus, whatever else they own. They own everything, it seems like. That you can get on, through Verizon or wherever, you can get this bundle. So I don't know how that's going to work. That seems like that could potentially end, because I know Joe even asked me about NHL Center Ice, and I don't know, because you read that too, right? That ESPN Plus is going to have all of the out of market games.
I guess I'll have to see, what the fine, maybe the fine print is on that, but I don't know. Unless they're only going to because I thought I read somewhere that they're only going to televise X amount of games per week, or
Yeah, so on ESPN itself, they're only going to have, I think, one game a week.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as I mentioned, there's going to be a second television deal, which I would assume would be with NBC, that they'll have games on, because obviously NBCSN's going away. So whether that be on NBC itself or the USA Network.
Well, I think actually, was it ABC? Because I think
so ABC is already in the Disney deal.
Okay.
Yeah, Disney owns ESPN and ABC.
Yeah, right.
So there may be the Sunday game, because am I wrong? Does ABC have? I don't think ABC has a football deal, do they? It's just Fox, NBC, and CBS.
Well, I think really just the only time ABC has a football game is during the playoffs, the wild. I noticed it's like the wild card round, but it's the ESPN broadcasters that are.
Yeah, because it's and ESPN was it Saturday Night Football, or is it Monday night?
ESPN has actually Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that would make sense. They probably had something in their contract there. But yeah, so ABC might want that content since they don't really have football. I don't believe anyway, other than like you said, the playoffs, because they put their Monday night games on ESPN.
Right.
So yeah. Well, and obviously they got Sunday night baseball. So maybe Sunday they would be Sunday games on. But see, I would think you would want Sunday
keep
games.
the Wednesday night deal. Like I know that NBCSN did, it's like Wednesday night rivalry.
Yeah, maybe they would do that. But yeah, apparently there's supposed to be a second TV contract. And what's interesting about it is the ESPN deal is double what they were getting. Like I think maybe even triple, but I guess at the end of the day it'll be triple because I think they were only getting 200 million a year off this NBC deal, and now the ESPN deal is 400 a year plus whoever the other second contract is. I assume would be at least 100 mil, maybe 200. So you'd be getting like 500 to 600 million a year in TV rights, which is huge.
Right.
Especially coming out of a COVID situation. But I know they said the 18 to 35, I believe it is, demographic is up 31% this year in viewership.
Watching hockey or watching
for hockey, yeah.
Okay.
So that obviously helps, but I'm curious how that plays during COVID, right? Because everyone's like at home watching games. So I don't know. Like I'd be curious to see what like the year over year is, like if it's progressively went up, and then obviously there was just this huge bump this year, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, hell, if you consider the amount of people that aren't going to games, that's probably enough to jump 30% right there. If you figure you've got, 20,000 people who are usually at every game for all of these teams. So anyway, definitely good news for the league, the health of the league, that they're going to bounce back. I really, really hope we get Gary Thorne back. I don't fuck Baltimore, fuck the Jesus, Orioles. I'm pretty sure he still does their TV color for Baltimore. But yeah, like Gary Thorne just gives me sweet memories of childhood, like bliss.
Same here. So,
but anyway, that will wrap up this edition of Riding the Pine. Again, the Hawks defeated the Dallas Stars by a score of 4-2. They improved their record at the midway point to 14-9-5. Their next game will be this Saturday at, I believe, is it 6 Central?
Yes.
Down in Miami. They'll be taking on Joe Quenneville's Florida Panthers. It will be the first time we have seen them since the horrific first 4 games of the season. So this is going to be a big test coming up. I think both Joe and I agree. We didn't talk about it, but I'd expect to see Kevin Lankinen start Saturday for sure. And big test coming up. So we will be with you with our review of that game Sunday morning, hopefully. Fingers crossed with everything going well with the upload. But yes, so until we talk to you guys again, after my wonderful rant on COVID, I'm going to tell you all, stay safe, wear your mask, get your vaccine so we can all get back and start going to games again. We all want normalcy back in our lives. So do what's necessary. And again, in the last 2 episodes, I've kind of mentioned, please reach out to your friends. Depression's a big thing going around right now. If you haven't heard from them, including your family members, but especially your friends, people like me who have no family and have no parents that are stuck at home all the time, definitely love hearing from your friends. So with that, everybody, please stay safe, and we'll talk to you Sunday morning. But until then, let's go Hawks.
All right. Thanks again for listening, everybody. And yeah, let's hope the Hawks can keep this momentum and get a win against Florida or 2. So,
All right. I love ending on positive thinking. We'll see you guys later.
all right. Thanks again.